Now I'd like to introduce Rose Bray, who's talking about Edu-cat-ion for change. So, Rose has extensive experience in the animal care industry as a veterinary clinic owner, manager and vet nurse, and as the operations manager of 10 Lives before moving into the role of 10 Lives Community and Education Manager in 2016. Rose also has experience working in the education system as a teacher assistant, working with a range of students from kinder to year 6. Rose has been passionate about animal welfare and the environment since childhood and is committed to making a real difference to the lives of cats, the people in our communities and wildlife. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about 10 Lives, but the main focus of today's talk is about Educat. What it is, why it's unique, why it's of high value to educators, students, cats, wildlife in the community, and how it's measured systems and support, availability and benefits for your organisation. So who are 10 Lives? We're the largest cat management and adoption facility in Tasmania. We've been caring for cats for over 70 years. We're an open intake shelter and we receive no government funding, and we rely on the income generated by our own retail operations and support through donations and bequests for of the community. We, like so many others here today, are striving to make a difference to the welfare of animals. In our case, that just happens to be cats. So one of the biggest questions that we had at 10 Lives was how to reduce shelter intake. The concept to address this was simple. We needed to come up with a way to create long-term social change in how people cared for cats. But how? Historically, community education programs that have addressed negative behaviour and turned them into desirable behaviours have been really successful. You just need to have a look at programs like anti-smoking campaigns, speeding, health and fitness, education programs, etc. They've all created awareness, empowerment and change in behaviour and resulted in positive outcomes. So in order to create long-term social change in how people cared for cats, we needed to educate people on what the problems are currently, why the change is needed, how to do it, and to keep telling them over and over. We decided the perfect place to start was in schools, as the students are going to be the cat owners of the future. Now, not wanting to reinvent the wheel, we searched for an existing feline education program, but we couldn't find any that met our requirements. We wanted a program that teachers would want and students would love, and that would have positive outcomes for cats, wildlife and community members, and that was repeatable to create that long-term social change. So in 2017, we developed Educat, a unique responsible cat ownership education program creating positive outcomes for cats, wildlife and communities. So let's look at what Educat is. It's a responsible cat ownership education program for students from kinder to year 7, encompassing key messages delivered in the classroom by experienced Educat facilitators. The key messages are then reinforced by the classroom teacher through challenges and workbook activities. What sets Educat apart from other education programs is it's not cat show and tell. In fact, we don't even have a cat in the classroom. Educat is a grade-specific kinder to year 7 program made up of 7 key messages, specifically designed to meet the teaching requirements of educators and learning needs of students in each specific grade. Each year, the same students will hear our messages building on information they've learnt in previous years so they can make informed choices about caring for cats in the future. And I'll talk about what these key messages are shortly. Now, if anyone here knows a teacher or you are a teacher, you'll know they're extremely busy people. They're constantly dealing with time constraints and working in an extremely crowded and busy school schedule with a forever dwindling budget, and we want a piece of their time. So to get teachers to take up Educat, we had to make it highly attractive. How? Link it to the Australian curriculum and STEM. So the Australian curriculum is used by teachers for assessment and reporting purposes, so they know how little Johnny is performing academically. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering and maths. So from 2016, our already busy primary school teachers are now required to integrate STEM learning and concepts with real-world lessons into their everyday teaching, yet many of them don't have the techniques nor the time to plan lessons that will meet the curriculum criteria successfully. So by linking Educat to the Australian curriculum with a focus on STEM, we were able to attract teachers by meeting their needs, by providing them with a fully planned STEM program that could be used for assessment and reporting purposes, which is based on real-world issues, and teachers can afford it, as we've made Educat free to all schools within Tasmania. So we were in the classroom. Okay. So what does Educat look like for teachers? Let's look at the Year 2 Educat program as an example, which is about features, offspring and the importance of desexing. So teachers use Educat worksheets to assess students on what they know about the meaning of offspring and life stages, and this covers various science and maths curriculum. Educat team members go into the classroom and teach students about the features of cats, life stages, offspring, and the importance of desexing through fun and engaging activities, such as cat feature bingo, life stage activity posters, and kitten maths madness. So various science and maths curriculum are covered here. After this, the classroom teacher will work with students on STEM challenges and workbook activities. For the STEM challenge, students design and make a model of a cat or a kitten at any life stage using recycled materials and display them into family groups. Again, various science and maths curriculum, along with design, technology and engineering curriculum are covered here. Student workbooks also include additional activities which cover literacy, numeracy and history curriculum. So as you can see, with Educat, teachers do less planning and more time of what they love doing, which is teaching. As many of you would have already seen at our trade stall, Educat consists of some highly presentable educational material and marketing. So we have an overview planning booklet which goes to all schools and to teachers so they can see what's coming up for the program and how they can then link it in with their curriculum. We have teacher STEM guidebooks for them and student workbooks which are all provided free to all schools. We also have certificates, so teachers can fill those in for students upon completion of the program, and workbooks because it's nice for students to have those, and it's also constantly reminding them of what they've learnt in the Educat program and of our organisation. We also offer behind-the-scenes tours of our shelter, which is a great opportunity for students and teachers to have an insight into the day-to-day activities of our organisation. So what does Educat look like for students? It's fun, it's engaging, it has different messages each year, so it's always fresh and exciting, and it's a relatable topic. Students get to play games, perform, plays, be quiz show contestants, make things like dioramas, models of cats, models of cat containment playgrounds, design cat toys, etc. So they really enjoy the program. Now remember earlier I did say I would tell you about the messages that students are learning that will help to improve the welfare of cats. So students learn, it's a long list, sorry, they learn about shelter intake and reasons for surrender and what to do if they can no longer care for a pet or if they find a lost pet. They learn about legislation around cat and pet ownership, so for example laws protecting animals against abandonment, needs and wants of cats and keeping them safe through containment, safety in the home, now all those hidden dangers for cats that most adults don't know about, like wool and lily toxicity, importance of desexing, life stages, breeding cycles, longevity, microchipping, vaccination, feline diseases such as cat flu and feline AIDS. And what about the wildlife? how is Educat helping to improve the welfare for our wildlife? So many students will tell you what an African animal is, but they've got no idea about our Australian animals. So through Educat, students learn about the impact about cat predation and toxoplasmosis that have on our wildlife and food webs, and how to prevent this. We have very unique wildlife in Australia, many of which are becoming endangered or extinct, and Tasmania has many endemic species, and we need to protect them before it's too late. According to a CSIRO study in 2014, Tasmania has one of the highest rates of cat-carrier Toxoplasma gondii infection in the world. The study found that over 84% of Australian feral cats in Tasmania carried this parasite. And how does Educat help our communities? By cat owners practising responsible cat ownership, desexing, microchipping, vaccinating and containing cats, we'll have happier communities due to a reduction in stray and abandoned cats and kittens, nuisance behaviours from free-roaming cats, and a reduction in the spread of toxoplasmosis affecting our wildlife, livestock and vulnerable members of our community. As you can see, Educat encourages and supports teachers to empower students to be advocates for change by creating positive outcomes for cats, communities and the wildlife. So, is Educat working and how are we measuring it? There's roughly 48,000 students in our target audience across Tasmania, and we're well on our way to reaching between 15 and 20,000 students by the end of this school year, which isn't bad considering it's only our second year running Educat. And most of those students are in southern Tasmania. Our aim, though, is to reach every student every year to get that long-term social change. We've developed an Educat volunteer facilitator program, which I'll talk about shortly, if I have time, and we'll be able to reach this number of students statewide in a financially sustainable manner long term. And do schools want us back? Yes, indeed they do. And we've had 150% in repeat bookings. So, for example, where we've just gone into a school and we've run a program in one classroom, then the following year or later that year they've asked us to come back and run several classes or actually the whole school. And do students understand these messages? Yes, because they're being tested against the Australian curriculum for their comprehension. We also send surveys out to teachers 2 to 3 weeks after our classroom visit to get feedback to see if the program has been useful, if it's age appropriate, would they recommend it and rebook it. It's all coming back as a resounding yes. Most of the comments from teachers are that they're extremely impressed at how professional and beneficial our program has been to them as teachers and as students, to students for learning, and how innovative Educat has been at creating positive outcomes for cats, community and our wildlife. What other measurements are there? We have baseline data from independent surveys of cat owners in Tasmania, and are currently working with Special Impact Development to produce an ongoing measurement framework so we can closely monitor the impact of Educat. And what do the community think? Well, surprisingly, what we didn't expect was a significant increase in the profile of 10 lives throughout the general community, the veterinary community and other state and local government organisations and shelters involved in cat management. This has increased our public profile, resulting in increased adoptions, retail sales and donations. The Minister for Education and his advisors hold Educat in high regard, and the President for the Tasmanian Principals Association is in awe that such a high-quality STEM program has been developed from a shelter. And I should point out that the Tasmanian veterinary industry also love Educat, as we're teaching those students, those future cat owners, how to improve the welfare of cats and wildlife. So we're measuring up pretty well in creating positive outcomes for cats and communities. So how do we get Educat into schools in the first place, and how do we manage it? Just briefly, we've got the volunteer training program. We have CRMs to manage our sales, because there is a lot of sales involved. Schools are a hard place to get into, but we're successfully breaking that barrier down. I support all our volunteers with their activities within the classroom. It's really important that we have our volunteers actually following our messages and staying on track with that, so hence the development of the program. So by now you're probably wondering if Educat is available for your organisation. If you're not, I hope you are. And what will it cost and how will it work? So the answer is simple, it is available. We developed Educat because we want to see it out there creating positive outcomes for cats, community and our wildlife. There will be a fee for Educat and the rebranding of the materials into your organisation's logo, but that will be minimal in the scheme of things. And this contribution will help us to continue to develop Educat further. We haven't developed Educat as a money-making venture. We really want to see positive outcomes for cats. Educat's scalable from 50,000 students down to, or more, or down to 1,000 students or less, which will affect what the cost will be to deliver Educat to your target audience. There'll be costs for key people in your organisation to be fully trained, up and running in schools, and that will vary upon if you have someone already in your organisation that you can utilise to deliver that. Do you have a CRM to be able to manage the contact with the schools and the number of students? If you're a small organisation, that just may be a spreadsheet. There's costs for the workbook, so each workbook costs us approximately $1 to print. So again, the size of your target audience will vary there into your costs. Also, if you're outside of Australia, it may be possible for us to adjust Educat to meet your educators' needs. So I encourage anyone who is interested in the program, please come and talk to us at the trade stall. And I'll leave you with one of my favourite quotes, is that the great aim of education isn't knowledge, but action.